And hello, good people of the internet. It is I, Tommy Kelly, and this is Adventures Moo. In this episode, I want to talk about this guy, who is the latest addition to my God action figure collection. And for those people on the audio, I'm holding up a bronze statue of Pan. So this came today, and I'm delighted with it. It's really well made, and it's a really cool kind of representation of Pan. And I want to first of all read out the description that comes with it, because it's quite cool. Pan. The half-goat, half-man Pan is son of Hermes and the nymph Dryope. Please, someone correct me on that. Pan is a god of creativity, music, poetry, sensuality and sexuality. He loves wine, women and boys, and is ready for every physical pleasure. His favourite time is noon, when he seduces young men while teaching them to play the pan flute. I'm sure he does. So by having this god in my vicinity, if I suddenly start, a change in my sexual outlook, we know who to blame. So Pan has been kind of a god, or at least a form of the horn god that I've been aware of a long while. The very first time I came across the horn god was in the old Robin of Sherwood TV series from the 1980s, which had this whole kind of mystical element to it, where you had Heron of the Forest, who was a guy in a long coat and deer antlers, but it was really cool and mystical, and really piqued my interest in that kind of idea of that, gods existing other than the Abrahamic angry god that hates us, that that I had been told was the only god. And there's something very magical and mystical and otherworldly, and something really cool that I found very attractive, and the whole idea of it being from the woods and stuff like that. The next time I kind of came across Pan was in a book called Maps, not to be mixed up with the psychedelic organization, but it's medical assisted something spirits or something. It was a big book in the 80s. In Australia, I think, is where it mostly happened, because it's not set in Australia. The author is from Australia. It's not a fiction book. And it was about this kind of idea that we have this kind of spirit team around us that involves, that we can invoke to help heal, that kind of thing. It's a very interesting book and very decent approach. She gets into flower essence and stuff in it as well, so it's like quite woo-woo, depending on if that's your flavour or not. But part of the invoking of this healing team, this medical assistant program, that's what it was you started by doing a coning, I think is what, if I remember correctly, with Pan, who was the nature spirit, the god of nature spirit. So he was your key, the gatekeeper into this kind of other world. So I've always kind of seen him as being a kind of a nature spirit, or someone who's connected as the embodiment of nature, and as most horn gods have this kind of nature connection. Recently enough, he's popped up in Hellier, which is that TV documentary that the Newkirks have done and that's become quite popular on the occult scene, and try to invoke Pan in many different ways. And Spud of Tommy and Spud Talk About is mad to invoke Pan in a cave by using whiskey and cigarettes. But it's just why I kind of wanted a statue of him, is because I'm trying to move away as much as possible from my framework of seeing the world through still a Christian type lens, which I'm only starting to really realize how much I still do that. I thought for the most part I'd kind of negated most of that kind of thought or that kind of outlook, but in fact it's a lot harder to do than I suspected, because the world that I am embedded in is so embedded in that type of thought. This kind of Western civilization is so just stewed in, or just marinated in, this kind of type of thinking that it's one of those things that it's so ubiquitous. I never fully pronounce that name or that word properly, but it's so ever present and so around us that it's hard to realize that it's there. It's just like, if you're a fish, do you really realize that there is water all about? That kind of thing. So what I wanted to do is to kind of return to a kind of an old nature type spirit. And last year, when I was in my forest walking mode, when I spent the entire summer more or less in forests and just kind of walking around, it was my kind of part of me was trying to reconnect with kind of a nature type thing. And Riggs the cat giving out about something. And so I want to get a bit more into that, and because I can't really get to a forest at the minute without breaking certain laws that the country have set up, which I don't want to do, because they're there for a reason, and whether they're actual laws, but it turns out they are laws, the rather guidelines, I want to adhere to them, because I think that's the right thing to do. So why I can't get to a forest, I thought, well, why not bring some sort of nature to me and kind of bring Pan to my altar and have that while, it's like if, what is it, if can't get to the mountain, bring the mountain to, I shouldn't start sentences that I don't know what the actual are. Is it if Abraham, Moses, someone can't get to a mountain and the mountain will come to, the expression I'm on about, and I will know it instantly as soon as I turn it off the record button. So bring that to me if I can't go out there. Like I have been trying to engage with nature as much as possible. I go for a walk every day and get close to as many trees as I possibly can. But it's still very it's still very urban, and it's not quite the same. The forest has its own very particular energy, and that you can't really recreate on a nature walk as in a kind of a artificial in a sense kind of nature, if you want, even though it's not artificial, but you know what I mean, man-made kind of a setup. So that's what I'm doing, and I really like him. I think he's awesome, and I'm just going to use it as a kind of a focus of my intention of trying to return to a more in touch with the world and in touch with the actuality of this place, nature, and see what it has to teach me, rather than through this lens or pendulum of reality tunnel of this kind of Christian Western outlook on all things. And I know Pan is still kind of Western because it comes from a Greek kind of thing, but you understand my kind of intention with this. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. If you know any good resources on Pan or any of the kind of horn gods, be that audiobooks, books, websites, good videos, documentaries, whatever, will you please let me know, because I'm going to try to saturate myself in this kind of stuff for a while. And I'm going to try to get more into the myths and legends of Ireland as well. Just to kind of, try to paradigm shift myself out of some thoughts that I probably don't need to hold on to anymore, and will probably be a bit expansive for my mind to release. So please do any resources you have, or any kind of things that you think I would be interested in comments below, or on social media, or on Discord, or any of these things. So good people of the internet, let me know how you are getting on with your kind of separation from nature, or if you're able to, maybe you live right next door to a forest and it's all cool for you, but what kind of things you were doing, kind of keep this, keep in touch with the reality of the world, the real world, taking your shoes and socks off and touching your feet on the ground, or whatever you're doing equivalent to that. Please let me know, because I'd like to steal some of your ideas. So good people of the internet, may our best days be ahead, and be well.